Thank you for staying tuned. As we promised tonight, we'll be looking into the process of BBI, the signature drive that we've seen across the country. We're having Tony Kienje. He is a governance expert to sort of canvass some of the issues concerning that report. Welcome, Mr. Kienje.
Thank you.
All right, now we start off from the point of what has happened today. The Secretariat, of course, co-chaired by Sunai's Member of Parliament, Junet Mohammed, and former Member of Parliament, Dennis Wawero, saying that so far they have collected 1.5 million signatures, and they're jubilated that 4 days after the launch, the acceptance of Kenyans to this particular report. Now, from where you see it, are you seeing an acceptance? Are you seeing Kenyans warming up to the report despite the divisive tones here and there in some parts of the country?
First of all, thank you very much for the invite. Yes, it is an overwhelming support. 1.4 million signatures is not a joke. For the last like 5 days or so. It's a big win. It's a big win for the nation. Apart from even the signatures themselves, the sentiments that go together with the signing of the signatures tells a lot that the Kenyans are really eager and waiting to even have the referendum.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, looking at the report, it has been revised on Wednesday last week. When they launched the signature process, we saw some of the changes being made in that particular report. Do you think the changes that were made in some of those clauses in the report sort of made Kenyans receptive or accept the report as is?
Yeah, most definitely, most definitely. If you can recall, one of the issues that was kind of an issue that was bringing a lot of division was the issue of police commission, and it was deleted altogether with the final report. Therefore, it is one of the sure ways to understand that indeed even the crafters of the bill itself, the BBI bill itself, are receptive of what the Kenyans are saying, and I believe even Kenyans have seen that indeed it is a document for them. Therefore, they have no reason to abort the process, or rather to decide not to support the process. So other than even the police commission being removed, deleted from the final report, there's also the issue of the ombudsman, the matter being made more clear, in the sense that he will be an ex-officio of JSC, in as much as the president will appoint, but he'll also be vetted by the Senate, for instance, and he will also not have a vote when it comes to, let's say, disciplining a magistrate or a judge. So I believe those are some of the issues that are going to make the Kenyans adopt this document.
All right. Now, even as we talk about that, on Thursday, the Secretariat is expected to present the report to IEBC. Of course, Chebukati and his team expected to look into the signatures. What is the process in itself? Because Kenyans are sort of, they don't really understand the process. They think that maybe once the signatures are approved, then we go into the referendum. But it is quite a process that will take a lot of time. If we're talking about having a referendum in April, could you kindly talk about step by step the process where this particular constitutional amendment bill of 2020 will go through?
Okay. Now, as we've started collecting the signatures as a nation, it is a stipulated process with the Constitution. Anytime you want to amend a law that touches on the Constitution, you have to, for instance, take signatures from Kenyans in the sense of to try and understand whether they accept to touch that sort of sacred document to them, that social contract that binds Kenyans together. Now, when we take the signatures, the IEBC will verify whether those signatures are legit. Once the IEBC verifies that the signatures are okay, then the bill will be presented to county assemblies in all over the nation, and it will have to take a majority of the county assemblies, that is 24, at least 24 counties, to debate on the bill and to accept. If they choose to accept the bill as it is or with amendments, then they will have to now push the bill to the National Assembly together with the Senate, just to sort of rubber stamp. The National Assembly or the Senate will not have an opportunity to amend
Or
what the county
the assembly
assemblies
have
will
decided.
have decided,
Right.
but rather to pass the motion as it comes, and now usher the nation into the process of having a referendum, which now will take the ball again back to IEBC to set a date for the referendum.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, looking at the county assemblies, of course, the 47 county assemblies will be subjected to this constitutional amendment bill to pass or to reject. Looking at our county assemblies, the dramas we have witnessed in some of the county assemblies, and looking into the process of impeachment of governors, this is really a crucial process being given to the county assemblies. Are we expecting a showdown, given that especially in the county assemblies in the Rift Valley region, given that Deputy President William Ruto has, of course, not really claimed whether he is for yes or no, but he has been a little bit distant and not really wanting to come out to say whether he really opposes this particular report. Trusting our county assemblies to do this particular process, are we seeing the fruitivity of understanding or changing our constitution?
First and foremost, we must understand that as a law-abiding nation, as a nation that is driven by the rule of law and fidelity to the Constitution, we must understand the place that our Constitution places the county assemblies. Therefore, in that respect alone, we need to understand that these are crucial institutions and institutions that have been put in place to make sure that the democracy that we have as a nation is established. That having said that, we only need 24 county assemblies to debate upon and to accept, for instance, to pass the bill as it is, and we are good to go if at all we are to have a referendum. But in terms of the drama that has been happening with in the county assemblies, I don't think this time round we will definitely not have a lot. Indeed, there might be some because of political interest here and there, but given that the BBI proposes the ward development fund, for instance, I think and I believe MCAs in this nation will do the wise thing in terms of helping the people who elected them into office enjoy the fruits of their leadership by even passing that bill. And I'm not saying that to say that that is sort of a carrot that has been thrown to them. To them. I'm only saying it as one of the issues that will endear even the MCAs themselves towards passing the bill, therefore minimizing any chance of debate or rather wrongful drama or negative debate, if I'm to call it that.
All right. Now, looking at the report as a critic, now the revised report, what can you say are some of the gains of that particular report, even before it is subjected to the county assemblies and Kenyans are given a copy? Before we get even to that, what are some of the gains that you can critically point out from that report, the revised report?
There are many gains. For instance, what I had touched on earlier on, in terms of the National Police Commission being deleted from the final report. When you look at that, the issue of police brutality in terms of the nation of Kenya when it was during, let's say, the old KANU days,
the regimes,
the past regimes, is a thing that was rather dealt with the new constitution. However, there's still much to be done, because remember, with the old constitution, we had the police being even named police force, but after the new constitution of 2010, we changed from a force to a service, to a police service. But now, with this report, we have, in terms of changing the doctrine, in terms of the mentality, the attitude, and the culture of serving the citizen first. With BBI, there's an issue of citizen education. And with citizen education, there's the issue of rights go hand in hand with responsibility. And having said that, there's also the a principle that is enshrined in the BBI of having the citizen first. Whenever the government wants to do anything, they must put the citizen first. Actually, I would have started with even saying the recommendation, or rather the solutions that the BBI proposes are in four. They are first constitutional in terms of constitutional changes. They are also statutory changes, that is legislative, changing of laws here and there, that are supposed to make the governance of our nation better. Other than that, there is also the issue of policy, changing of policy. And other than the policy aspect, there's also administrative changes. And actually, when it comes to the administrative changes, it is where now we find now the issue of, let's say, the National Police Service coming into play, whereby we are having now the issue of not just the National Police Service, but even other commissions being put to task to put the citizen first, and also to use the resources that are bequeathed to them in the most let's say prudent manner, so that even Kenyans can get value for their money. So in terms of even focusing on those four aspects of the solutions, there are so many issues that are there in terms in the report to make the Kenyan become a better person, because like one of the principles of the BBI is having national ethos. So it is not just even the matter of a state, of the state having a role to play, but it is a matter of even the common mwananchi having a role and in terms of responsibilities to take.
Right, it is quite a broad subject, and of course you cannot deliberate on it in a day. But let's talk about the issue of free and fair elections. I think the reason why we had the BBI in the first place is because of the antagonism between President Uhuru Kenyatta and opposition leader Raila Odinga. But looking at the process itself of even choosing the referees, IEBC commissioners, it has been quite an issue. In the first report, the first draft that was presented, we had political parties choosing, but now they changed it to having a selection panel. Now we got back to the status quo. But some critics have said it has not solved the issue of having a free and fair elections, because if the selection panel will, for one reason or another, the opposition at that time will feel the selection panel is biased, as we had the issue of Chebukati being given the position of the chairmanship. Therefore, we'll still go back to the same problems. Do you think the BBI team, led by the lawyer Paul Mwangi, did not really find the solution to choosing the referees in the elections game?
I beg to look at it differently, in the sense of BBI first and foremost. Other than it being introduced by what we called the golden handshake between Uhuru Kenyatta, our president, and the leader of opposition, the former Right Honorable Prime Minister Raila Odinga, it is actually a conversation of Kenyans. Because if you can recall, it started with the two coming together and having a dialogue. And out of that dialogue, they came up with now a team that was to go around the nation, taking views from all Kenyans, because it was not an issue of Raila and Uhuru, or Uhuru and whoever else he would have brought on board, but an issue of Kenya and making Kenya a better nation. In that light, IEBC is one of the institutions that is there to make sure that Kenya remains a stable nation, Kenya remains a democratic nation. To come back in terms of the proposal that was there to have, let's say, political parties, the two major political parties choosing commissioners in the IEBC, that was also deleted in the final report. We now have a clear pathway of how to choose the commissioners in terms of experience, what has been there, the act itself. Let me say this: politics is born to be emotional. Politics, being an interest-driven affair, is born to have to create storms here and there. But that in itself cannot be an issue in terms of making us not partake on the democratic process of having an election. You do understand that there are nations where elections may be run in such a way that we may not even our neighboring countries, for instance, we may not be really enthusiastic about it. But I believe in terms of our nation, we have really achieved a lot in terms of gaining democratic space. And I believe even looking at 2017, the IEBC itself, in as much as it had issues, we still have that opportunity as a nation to have an IEBC that will be respected by the people. Because first and foremost, it all boils down to the citizens themselves.
What is the how they taking it up? Yeah.
How the citizens themselves take up the matter. And that is why BBI, for instance, wants to address the whole matter in terms of looking at it from a point of how can we make elections an emotive matter. How can we tone down the political rhetoric that is there during elections? How can we sort of move from a nation that is centered on having politics as the order of the day, but a nation that is focused in terms of development, and not just development, but shared prosperity. So we cannot say for sure that even with the current proposition that Kenyans will be satisfied with who becomes commissioner or who does not become commissioner. We can only hope that Kenyans can be more responsible in terms of respecting the institutions that are there and upholding the rule of law.
All right. Now, away from that, the issues of IEBC, let's talk about the issue of two-third gender rule and the issues of inclusivity. Now, the proposal by the revised BBI document proposes that 70 new constituencies should be added in the country. Now, from the 290, we add another 70. I think it will bring it to 360, if my mathematics is right. But the issue has been that if we have 360 constituencies and we go to the ballot, and let's say maybe a third of them are women, we will still not have solved the issue of two-third gender rule. It means another additional number of women will be nominated from the party list, according to what the report said, to get to follow or implement the two-third gender rule. Will that not be a burden for the country? Will the issue of adding 70 constituencies solve really the issue of two-third gender rule, or is it just something that was mentioned there, and if the common mwananchi doesn't look at it critically, we may be headed to a huge wage bill?
If I'm just to start it there from the common mwananchi and address he or she who's watching me, I would tell the Kenyan who's watching me, if you want to punguza mzigo, vote for a woman, vote for a lady. Because the minute we change that perception that it is only men who can be elected into office, and as Kenyans we vote for women, the issue of us nominating women, more women into parliament, for instance, will not be there, in as much as it is about gender. So we must have like gender parity. If the men are many, we nominate the women. If the women are many, we nominate the men. But we can achieve that first and foremost, even without the legal technicalities in play. We can achieve that as a nation if we ourselves, as the Kenyans, as the Kenyan people, we decide, for instance, to vote for the women.
But you see, the problem, Kenji, here is that even before we come to the point of voting, we have to start from the point of party politics, party list, the issue of nomination. It has to start from the point of parties, because if, let's say, Ruiru constituency, ODM candidate is a man, we go to Jubilee, it's a man, Wiper. If that happens to, let's say, 270 constituencies, still, it will not really be solved, because in Kenya, party politics are quite dominant. Let us even not talk about independent. Party politics itself, it is quite dominant.
And that is why one of the key propositions of BBI was to tackle the issue of nominations of women to be tackled at the party level.
Yeah.
So that when we have the we're at the ballot, it's not a matter of now choosing a man, so that once the National Assembly is constituted or the Senate is constituted,
Yeah, once
no,
Parliament is open.
we have like now to look at the gender parity, but solving that matrix at the party level, whereby political parties will have to make sure that by the time they are presenting candidates to be gazetted as parliamentary candidates for election by the IEBC, to present a list that has that gender parity.
Right.
And that is one of the ways where we can
Maybe.
be able to solve that matter. But having said that, there's also the issue of moving, let's say, the women rep from now the National Assembly to the Senate.
Senate, okay.
That is one of the ways that we will also ensure gender parity.
In the Senate.
Yeah, in the Senate. And not just ensuring gender parity, we will ensure that even the women themselves will have a say. Because you remember in the old, in the current dispensation right now, with this constitution that we're having, the 47 women reps, if they were to decide to, let's say, have a vote on a matter, and even lobby to have even other, let's say, even 47 legislators come together, that 47 plus 47 cannot match the other number in terms of, and that is why it was prudent for us as a people to decide to move those 47 women reps to the Senate, where they can have a say. Because, for instance, they will only have to endear themselves to one senator, and they have a majority. Or even, not just that, it might have even also have the issue of us as a nation electing one senator who is a lady, and by the virtue of that, in the Senate we have a majority of women. So it is it is a delicate balance, whereby in a way we have created gender parity by having the Senate having the women, but when it comes also to the National Assembly, the party will
the party
also
politics will have to take
center stage.
All right. Now, away from that, we had the issue of the proposal that were made. Our very own Winfrey did a story there concerning how the BBI proposal has divided some of the counties to have more constituencies. But the question has been whether it will interfere with the issue of boundary review by IEBC. And away from that, when you look at the counties, I think Nairobi gets 12, Kiambu 6. We have some Kajiado, I think 2. Looking at it critically, there are some of the counties that have not been mentioned in that particular proposal, like Nyeri County, or some of the counties maybe that are far off, that have huge populations or have some of the constituency. For example, Kieni constituency, it is in Nyeri County, but it is quite big, and the Member of Parliament has lamented time and again that the constituency needs to be divided into 2. But now with the proposal of the BBI, do you think they will interfere with the issue of boundary review, and some of the counties will be left behind in terms of dividing some of the huge constituencies?
The principle that is guiding them first and foremost is the issue of representation vis-a-vis the population, the number of registered voters in any particular constituency, in terms of looking at the threshold of how many people does a certain legislator supposed to represent. Now, when we look at that issue of the population, or rather the demographics, then that is what will now tell us which constituencies will need an extra constituency. And it will also now bring about the issue of creating, or rather having new boundaries being set up, the demarcation. It is not a matter of just how huge a place is, the landmass or anything. The underlying principle is mainly in terms of the number of people in any particular constituency. That is what will guide. So it is not just a matter of looking, for instance, at Kieni and saying Kieni is so huge.
It is huge, and even the population is quite big. so to speak.
But does the population warrant them having a new, a new consistency?
Okay, now
That is,
that is of course subject to looking at the BBI report in itself. I think they're not Nyeri, actually Nyeri does not have an extra constituency. Looking at them, I think the size, the population size has sort of made it not really make it to the cut when it comes to the 70 constituencies that are being put in place.
You see, it was also a balancing act because we also, as a nation, did not want to have too many constituencies, in as much as we also need every Kenyan to be represented in the best way possible. Yet, I believe it will also boil down to other governance mechanisms taking shape. For instance, in this current dispensation, the CDF was actually rendered unconstitutional in as much as it was there. But with the BBI in place, we have a certainty whereby even in that big constituency, they'll still have something to fall back to in terms of CDF, as opposed to now when it was a matter of if, for instance, the government was not to relay the funds and let's say, quote the judgment that was passed by our courts that rendering CDF to be unconstitutional, the people of Kieni might have lost. But right now, there's also a win in the sense that they might not get a new constituency, but at least they have their CDF there permanently. Other than that, they also have the ward development funds, as other wards all over the nation will be receiving. But better still, the funds will also be utilized through a mechanism that will be developed with the principle that is enshrined on Article 43 of the Constitution, that talks about basically the socio-economic rights, the right to water, the right to food, right to education, health, and also sanitation. So, and also, other than that, I've also remembered the issue of even the funds for devolution having been increased from 15 to 35%. So it is a matter of, we might, as a resident, as Wanjiko or Atieno or Amina, wherever they are, they might not have a win in the sense of them enjoying a new constitution, but they have other wins funds, in terms of maybe the Ward Development Fund, devolution being getting a job in terms of, you know,
the funds.
Our funds, an increase of the funds. So it's a win-win either way.
Okay, so let's now move to the issue of the Senate. It is, the proposal by the BBI report is to have the Senate as an upper house, of course, which was the recommendation in the Bomas draft, if you remember, before the 2010 constitution. There's some who said at a time that Senate should be abolished, but do you think this particular clause by BBI will save the clamor for the dissolution of the Senate?
Let me say the Senate is important. The reason the Senate is important is because devolution in itself is critical for this nation. And let me surprise you by telling you that if you want something to unite Kenyans today, in as much as they may have differing opinions in terms of politics, try and remove, for instance, the issue of counties from our nation. What I'm trying to say is this: devolution is here to stay. And having devolution in place means that we also need a house that will provide oversight and will also be able to drive devolution and to make us as a nation reap the maximum benefits of devolution. Having said that, there's always been the issue of should the Senate be the upper house, or should it not be? And for me, it is more or less, is it serving the purpose that it was created for? And for me, it is serving the purpose. And yes, with the BBI propositions right now, it appears as if the Senate has been given the status of an upper house, but not really quite. Because when you also look at the National Assembly, they still retain critical powers that are domiciled in that house. So it is just a matter of maybe containing the egos of those who may be in the Senate, and while at the same time maintaining also the egos of those who are at the National Assembly, so that we look at both houses as houses that are there to complement each other, not to compete with, with each other.
Yeah, because once they get to compete there, they lose a line, and of course they lose the objectiveness of the bicameral house.
True.
Now, because we are pressed on time, finally, can you tell us what can be your final words concerning the process altogether here in the country and the issue of a non-contested referendum? Today we had the ANC leader Musalia Mudavadi say that he is supporting the BBI report, even as previously he was against it. And now he called on other leaders, who include Deputy President William Ruto, to support the BBI report so that we can have a non-contested referendum. From where you sit, do you think this report can be the uniting factor, beg your pardon, here in the country?
We'll have to wait and see.
All right.
Reason being, politicians are born to be politicians.
Yeah,
it's a matter of interest. But having said that, what I would say is that let us, as Kenyans, not look at this document from a political angle. It has so many solutions that are not political. For instance, it has solutions that are economic and socio-economic in nature. So looking at it with a political perspective, robs it of its authenticity, robs it of its value. BBI is not 2022. Once we are able to remove that mentality and attitude that BBI is there to elevate someone, or rather BBI is there to decapitate someone, or it is a vehicle, for instance, to ensure those who are in power remain in power. Once we remove those perceptions and misconceptions, then as a nation we will be able to chart the way forward in terms of giving, or rather bequeathing ourselves a document that is there to improve our constitution, and not just improve our constitution, to create a culture that will bring the best out of us as a nation.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Tony Kienchi, for making time and giving us a perspective concerning the BBI process thus far.
Thank you.
All right. We are taking a short break, but do stay tuned. We'll be back with more.